Hello everyone, and with the revelation of Zoro and Sanji going to fight King and Queen, and with me always being a believer Zoro will be going back to the roof, my friends were asking me how I felt about it, so I figured it might be an interesting topic for a video. And the topic for today's video is Zoro going back to the roof, and what is he doing up there? I decided this video ought to be fun, so I might as well. And if you guys are new to the channel, please like the video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. It only takes a few seconds and makes a massive difference. Now, I do want to preface this video by saying I don't care how strong characters are really. This is just what I genuinely think. And hopefully, if you don't agree with me, that I make my point clear enough to where you see where I'm coming from, and maybe are even a little swayed by the end of this video. I just wanted to say that because this topic is kind of a sensitive topic. But I know me myself is never going to be toxic or anything. I have my own predictions. If you don't agree with it, that's fine. I don't really care. But yeah, let's get into why I think Zoro will go back to the roof. I want to structure this video similarly to my Are the Admirals Underrated or Overrated video. Go check that out if you haven't. That being that I want to touch up on the arguments against it first, then transition into why I actually think he's going back to the roof. With the first point being that the King fight is going to take too long, seeing as there's only 15 minutes left until Onigashima crashes into the Flower Capital, and that King is too tough of an opponent for Zoro to beat in 15 minutes. Now, this point is a kind of interesting one because a lot of people have different perspectives on how long King and Zoro are going to fight. Some people say it's going to be extreme difficulty, something like Dad's Bones. Some people think it's going to be relatively easy for the two, and either thinking is fine. But me personally, looking at the rooftop fights, Zoro to me performed better than what we would call a Yonko commander or a first commander. But if you think it's going to be a relatively easy fight, so I can't see King pushing him too much. I do not see it going as far as the Dad's Bones fight. But if you do think that, even in the Dad's Bones fight, he mentions that the wounds that he got from that fight only hurt, that they weren't that deep, and he voluntarily goes to sleep. A couple chapters later, he is back on his feet helping Nami and them move the bomb in Alabasta, and I don't think King is taking him that far at this point, seeing how the toughest fight he may ever be in besides Mihawk, he still could be up and moving a couple chapters later. With the addition of the other Straw Hat fights being only a couple chapters each, I feel like this fight is going to end relatively quickly. Whether you think he's going to the roof or not, the arc is reaching its climax, so I feel like both of these fights can't afford to be this long. Like I said, I don't think he's going to be so damaged where he can't do anything anymore. And plus, Oda matched Zoro up with King while he actually has a counter to what he's basically known for, or his whole brand, King the Wildfire. Unlike any other fight in the series that I can remember, Zoro actually has something in his arsenal that can counter the other opponent. I think this is pretty telling of where Oda is going with this. The next argument is the medicine. The medicine will make him incapable to fight any longer after it's worn off. Now, this is something I was kind of on board for, albeit I thought it was going to take place only at Elbaf, not at the end of this arc or anything. But some people do think the medicine is going to take effect and is going to make him feel all that damage and everything by the end of this arc or during this arc. But I don't know how I feel about this argument because Chopper said it's not even in full effect yet. We don't know how long he has until he starts feeling the pain, but the medicine hasn't even taken its full effect yet. Like, it's not even fully healed him yet. So it's possible he could finish his fight and just barely be healed. At the very least, I feel like he has to be able to move. A lot of people forget this, but he said he's going to visit Ryuma's grave. So I feel like he can't not move in this scenario. I don't think anybody's going to carry him to, Ryuma's grave or anything. I feel like people are either overstating the effects of this medicine, or they're not taking into effect that Zoro has to go to Ryuma's grave afterwards. And speaking of Ryuma, this is where I'll transition into why I actually think he's going back to the roof. Now, there is a magazine about the legend of the Dragon Slayer Ryuma, and it speaks on the current state of Wano and Zoro, and it says, the opponent that Zoro defeated in the bark, Ryuma, is said by legend to have cut down a western dragon with his sword, a sword that is now in Zoro's hands. In Punk Hazard, Zoro already killed a western dragon as well. Now, Zoro and the Straw Hats are in Ryuma's homeland, Wano, to take down one of the Yonko, Kaido. Now that Zoro has obtained Shusui from Ryuma after their duel, the possibility might arise that a new legend of slaying an eastern dragon might be born. This is really interesting because I feel like that hasn't come into play yet. Whether you think Zoro is killing Kaido or whatever, I will save that for you. That was something I believed in before I even joined really the community or anything. And some people might even say his rooftop battle was the opportunity to slay the Eastern Dragon, and that is fine, but I feel like he hasn't really gotten a chance to actually slay that Eastern Dragon. He may have got like one swing at him or something like that in his Eastern Dragon form, but with the amount of things that Oda foreshadows and brings back after hundreds of chapters, I feel like that is something that Oda might not forget. Now, this is actually a thought I kind of semi thought about on my own. Even though it may be a common thought, I am kind of proud of myself for actually fleshing this thought out, and that is the master samurai that Kaido was talking about. Obviously, he wants to fight someone and die by someone that is as strong as Oden, or as he sees as strong as Oden. Obviously, many of us believe that Kaido got stronger over those 20 years, as Oden did say that, so his standards for someone being a monstrous swordsman have risen. Well, he says he's waiting for a samurai, and in the beginning of Wano, Luffy said you can't be a samurai without a katana. There's only one other person in the alliance that I can see even seeing him again, that is Kaido. Now, obviously, he's gotten a lot stronger, in my opinion at least, over those 20 years. A lot of people think that Oden was overrated and he wasn't as strong because Kaido, you know, he was a cabin boy or whatever. But I do think his perception of Oden is ultimately through the perspective of a younger, weaker Kaido. So he is looking for somebody in present day to fulfill that role. And the only other samurai in Wano that I can see being a matchup for Kaido is Zoro. And I do not think he proved that in the first rooftop battle. I'm not saying he didn't do well. I actually think he was probably one of the MVPs, or actually the MVP of the rooftop battle. He saved Luffy multiple times despite not having, you know, some crazy fruit that can transfer people. He scored Kaido. He was fast enough to get in front of the sovereignty attack that Killer and Law couldn't even react to, and was so strong that Law thought he was dead for a minute. Law mentioned that he had broke multiple bones in his body. So I do feel like it is right for him to go back to the roof with Luffy after this king battle. And of course, I gotta ask my question. I ask your opinion on stuff almost every video that I drop, but do you think Zoro is going back to the roof? I think it would be really cool, honestly. We're getting our kind of, you know, teamwork with Zoro and Sanji, but I've always wanted to see more of that Zoro and Luffy dynamic. It's just always something that's cool to see. And another point is that I feel like he shouldn't have honestly given up on his goal by now. I said in my Wano predictions video that Zoro should at least have the roof in his mind, just like how obviously Kid is stuck with Big Mom right now. But if given the opportunity, he would 100% go to Kaido because that is what his main goal was. And you know, things happen, but Zoro is not fighting Big Mom or somebody as strong as her. So I feel it would make sense if Zoro did have the roof in his mind and thoughts of going back there. I honestly don't know what Marco is going to do, but I do honestly think he is just going to rest, and that may be even the way Zoro gets back up to the roof. And another question for you guys, what is his role going forward in the story? Is he resting? Do you think he's going to fight somebody, help Nekomamushi? Is he going to the roof itself? Let me know in the comments. There are so many unsettled things between Kaido and Zoro that I feel like Oda didn't just leave there on purpose. This arc was the most mad I've ever seen Zoro at anybody, at anything. A lot of us presumably thought that he was going for Orochi because he said that he would avenge Yasue and he wouldn't let Orochi get away with this. The next time we see him, he doesn't even have Orochi on his mind. He's not thinking of him. And in my opinion, that type of anger does not go away. And speaking of this, I want to talk about the panel at the end of chapter 1022 where Zoro says, if we win this, Luffy will become Pirate King, or something on the lines of that. Now, people are interpreting this as Zoro isn't going back to the roof because he feels like that this is an important enough battle to where he doesn't need to be there. But I will note that there have been 3 different translations. One saying if we win this fight, Luffy will become the Pirate King. One saying if we win this war, Luffy will become the Pirate King. And one saying if we win this war, Luffy will become the Pirate King. Now, whatever translation you go with, that does not matter to me. But I do not think any of these disprove anything that I'm saying right now, as of course beating 2 Yonko commanders and the top 2 strongest on Kaido's crew is going to be crucial in Luffy's dream. Throughout the story, he has enough of a challenge with just the main villain of the arc, cannot do it without the 2nd and the 3rd respectively on his crew. That is just a given. Them saying that, in my opinion, and from my perspective, kind of was just reverberating the point that they always do. Luffy will become the Pirate Kings. We're close to it now. We're getting into the end game. I feel like the statements will start start to change a little bit. Since we are so close, it'll start hitting a little bit more. And one of the last points is that a lot of us feel like this Black Blade will become into play, since Gikamaru did mention it back in Ringo. And the way it is talked about, I don't know if Oda would go with the route that Zoro does obtain this Black Blade, something that only 2 people have gotten in the history that we know of, and have him obtain it versus someone like King. Now that is no disrespect to King, but if Zoro can unlock it versus someone of the likes of King, that brings a whole lot more questions as to why other legends haven't had it. Throughout any other arc, this is probably the most likely he is going to achieve a Black Blade, as it's the only arc that is actually really mentioned in it, even being touched upon twice, and Zoro showing interest in it those 2 times. If you do look at all the evidence for Zoro, you know, slaying Kaido or whatever, whether you do believe it or not isn't the point. You kind of had to feel this sense of it being left unsettled in a sense. And I say all of that to say this, which is my last point, and something I touched on early in the video, and it is, how hard is this King fight going to be? Obviously, I don't know for sure what it is going to be, how hard the fight is going to be, but I do think it is telling that Oda gave Zoro the matchup versus King, someone who can conjure fire versus someone who can cut fire. He's already giving him an advantage in this fight, and despite whether or not you think Zoro is on King's level or not, it is kind of interesting how this matchup has been set up. Oda has already shown us that Zoro can cut someone that is way more durable than King, presumably, and Kaido can already dodge attacks from him, can already permanently scar him, and can already block attacks many times stronger than anything King can probably do. Just think about that for a second. I do feel like it is possible that Zoro, and of course Sanji, because he's right there beside him, will finish this fight pretty easily. There's only a set amount of time left, and I do think Momo is going to prolong that. I said that in my last video, and I think my Wano predictions video. Even if he can prolong it, it's still reaching the climax of the arc regardless. So I feel like these fights had to be touched on pretty quickly. And just think about it from the story perspective. If he is going to be out of commission on Elbaf, then he only has max 2 or 3 fights left in the story, all 3 of them fights being considerably stronger than King. So wouldn't that make you feel like he is going to prove in this arc that he is on the tier of someone, as what we perceive is going to be Shiryu's strength when he presumably fights him, or if he's going to spar off against someone in Shanks' crew, or whatever marine he's going to fight in the final war. There's only maybe 4 arcs left in the story, or maybe 5 or 6, with him only having 3 or 4 fights left. So I feel like it is necessary for Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy to all take big steps at this point. And some people still may be mad at the power creep, but Oda is going to do what he's going to do. I'm just predicting. I'm just an ant in the well, you know. This is just what I think. This is just my perspective on everything. Nobody really talks about this kind of stuff, so I felt like it would be kind of cool to just bring you a chill discussion on this Monday evening. And as I close this video out, please let me know how you liked the video. Please comment your take on all of this, and let's have a discussion in the comments. I love to talk about One Piece with all of my subscribers. Please like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications if you haven't. And until next time, peace.